Okay, let me set you up for the second segment, which should be just as infuriating. This is a soliloquy? Can't pronounce that word for some reason today. This is a 3-minute rant from Officer and Fraternal Order Police President John Catanzara. This is our FOP Watch segment. This is his, it's not testimony because that's the wrong way to say it. He signed up to give public comment. He's not testimony, comment at the Public Safety Committee meeting on Tuesday that was set up to vote on the new Community Commission, and they did set up and vote on it, and they did pass it. He was the only community speaker. And here, what I would bet, I'm going to bet this is against the law. Okay, what I'm about to tell you. They opened the public comment. Catanzara couldn't get connected because it was virtual. They then closed the public comment. Catanzara called his friend, another alderman who seems kind of alt-right, white supremacist-like. He was one of the co-sponsors of the Blue Lives ordinance back a few years ago after the Laquan murder. Only a white supremacist would do something like that. He called Alderman Spizzato, 37th Ward, if I think 37th, 38th, northwest side, and said he couldn't get connected. So Spizzato told them that he couldn't get connected. And then the chairman asked one of his people, Chairman Talafario, to get him connected. And then he reopened the public comment so Catanzara can talk. The problem with that, all of that, is he wasn't giving testimony. He was giving public comment. If I was signed up on that sheet and I couldn't get in, they wouldn't have reopened it for me. Who was I going to call? I don't have any aldermen's or phone numbers on that committee. Does the average Chicagoan have phone numbers for aldermen they can just call and make sure they get connected so they can give their 3 minutes of comment? No. But this is Talafario and Spizzato and that ilk bending to the FOP for no reason. Spizzato and Talafario should have said, sorry, you're crap out of luck, my friend. We're going to treat you like everyone else in Chicago. We don't care if you can get connected or not. That's what they should have said to him. I would bet reopening the public comment is probably against the law. Now I've done that rant. Go to our website, look at our report on John Catanzara. It's Catanzara, 23 years of police misconduct and a little summary of his social media history. He has 50 complaints. We track maybe around, there's probably more, but about 30% are internal. This guy is a huge hypocrite, but we'll get to that in a minute. He has no credibility on the phrase accountability. That word should never come from his mouth. He has 50 complaints against him. 50. He's in the top 4% in the CPD currently for most complaints against him ever. Right? And here he is calling up to complain about them putting an accountability in. Of course. Of course someone who has 50 complaints, who survived 2 times of firing him, he's up to being fired a 3rd time now, of course he's going to complain about accountability. So I want to tell you about, so I'm going to play this. Let me play that. It's only audio. You're going to see the video from the Public Safety Committee meeting, but it's only audio for him. And you can listen to the segment, and then we'll talk about his comments.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, John. Go ahead.
All right. Well, obviously, I'm speaking out in opposition to this ordinance. I'm a firm believer there is way more oversight for the police department than needs to be. I could see Chairman Taliaferro talking, but I don't see anything. So I don't know if I'm on a delay or what here. But
no, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. So, the police have several layers of oversight already. We're looking at COPA, IAD, Inspector General, just to name a few. You have the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. You have the State Attorney General's Office. You have the Training and Standards Board Certification Board down in Springfield. That's 6 layers of oversight right now. There is no need to add a 7th, and there's probably a couple more that I'm missing, but those are the 6 main ones. just for comparison's sake, my question is, why is the oversight always about the police department and turning over now control to a lot of the squeaky wheels who made this city into anarchy last summer, and now entertaining the idea that you want to give them the ability to dictate police policy going forward is absolutely absurd and dangerous and reckless. So I don't know where this is going. I'm told there might be enough votes tomorrow to even make this happen one way or the other, but I will ask this simple question. How many layers of oversight are there in the city council? You currently have 3 or maybe even 4 aldermen from the last election that are under indictment right now out of 50. I can assure you that's probably 30 times more than the percentage of officers who are facing criminal charges on the police department right now. But yet we're not having any discussion about oversight for city council or adding anything more than the inspector general's ability to look at city council. Again, this finger pointing needs to stop. The police are not the problem in this city. You are going to turn over the keys not only to the criminals, which is what they did down in Springfield, but now you're literally looking them to give them a welcome mat to the city hall and the police department. It needs to stop today. This needs to not only barely get shot down, this needs to be an unanimous no and send a signal. I heard many of you talking about how you respect the police. You appreciate the police. You're glad the police are there. You don't want less police. You want more police. In a city council meeting just 2 weeks ago, and now here some of you are entertaining the possibility of making the job even harder. I don't know what you think you're going to get for a police force when you keep basically laying the blame for what's wrong in this city at their feet. I can tell you as a representative for 12,000 plus members, they've had enough. They are on their breaking point of saying, I'm just done. You are losing young officers at an incredibly record rate to lateral transfers to suburban departments. I don't even think any of you are aware of that on the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, so let's get into some of his contents. And by the way, if you got questions or comments, drop them in the chat comment section for any of the platforms. I'm happy to include them in the show. Want to make it as interactive as we can. Okay, so let's get to some of the stuff they're spinning there. We have so much oversight. We have the state's attorney, we have the attorney general's office, we have the training and standards board. Not really. They have oversight by the attorney general's office and the state's attorney like we all do. If you break the law, they'll prosecute you. That's really it. The training and standards board, once again, no. As long that really were mainly has to do with the actual training in the academy. They certify it. And yes, can you lose your certification if you're a police officer, but I mean, that's more of a recent thing because of HB 3653 that just got signed into law. But that's not true. And the reality is, COPA, IPRA, the Office of Professional Standards, they're all broken. They don't work. Police board doesn't work. Deputy Public Safety Inspector General, that office does kind of work, but it's not really direct oversight on an individual officer. It's more about big picture systemic things, which is great, but that doesn't apply to what Catanzara is talking about. He doesn't care about the truth also. Let's just be honest. The truth and him have no correlation, no relationship. Other than he will say he's being truthful, but you can know that that ain't happening. Why is there so much oversight? Like he tries, you also see him flip it. Like, why isn't there more oversight in the city council? My friend, he knows, and he's lying, but I will tell you. It has something to do with the fact that you have the guns, you have the arrest powers, and you have the legal authority to take lives. That might be what it's about. Now, we could also go back in history a little bit and talk about John Burge torturing people, Marquette 10, Austin 7, Joseph Majanowski, the SOS scandal, the Area 2 gun team. We can talk about Laquan McDonald murder, Anthony Alvarez just recently. I mean, you can keep going back. Summerdale scandal, we can keep going back. Corruption, abuse, brutality, year after year after year from this department. Are all the officers bad? No. But enough are, and the problem is the good officers are the ones that allow the bad ones to stay. because they don't do anything to get them off. Does the city council need more oversight? Sure. Let's add something to that. I'm fine. Police are not the problem in this city? You're a part of the problem, my friend. You are part of the problem. You especially, as being one of the worst cops on the street when you were there. For sure, you're part of the problem. The bigger problem is you're not the solution. That's the real problem in all of this, is you're not the solution. You claim to be, you want to be, and then you whine about giving things that you can't solve. But then when people like the defund police come out and say, well, we want to build systems that'll take care of the things you don't want to respond to so you don't have to respond to anymore. No. We have to go to all the calls. Make up your mind. Once again, you're a massive, unbelievable, unprecedented hypocrite. At the same point, you can't both want to take things off your plate, but then never let them be taken off your plate. How does that make any sense? It makes sense in a Trumpian mind. And that's what Catanzara is. And that's a lot of what the FOP leadership is. Who, by the way, BEZ and Chip Mitchell, I keep forgetting his name. Chip Mitchell did an interesting piece a couple months ago. We looked at it on the show. About the leadership, only one person of color in the last 20 years. Maybe one last person of color ever, but at least since 2000, I think. One person of color in the elected leadership. And they treated her like crapola. White old guys, that's what you get. White old men. 20 years. You're not part of the problem. Yes, you are. You don't get that considering you are so highly diverse as a force. There's no way it's always white guys. There's a reason. And back to who's the problem, right? The public didn't murder Laquan McDonald. Police did. The public didn't cover up Laquan McDonald. Police did. Your members did. The public didn't give Jason Van Dyke a job while he was suspended, while they had stripped him of his police powers and they were looking to fire him. You know who did? The FOP, the union. They gave him a job. You won't ever cut anyone loose, and the worst, more grotesque, horrific things they do, the more you have their back, especially if they're white. You're oblivious to the negative impact you have on society and the negative impact your rhetoric and your actions have. And the reality is, your organization has power and has clout. You should be arguing for the building up of the systems that will take things off your plate and solve the social problems we can't solve. We don't have the tools. The defund police want to build up systems so you don't have to take those calls anymore, but that would reduce the size of your union. It would reduce the money you have to play with. It would reduce the clout you have. So then you can't have it. You're stuck in a loop that is hurting your own membership. And the membership, a lot of them like it because you got elected. They're hurting themselves day in and day out with the way they vote, the way their rhetoric, the way they treat people on the street. And you can't get out of that loop. I don't know what else there's to say, but John, take a look in the mirror, babe. When it comes to policing, you're the worst of it. 50 complaints. Many internal from other officers and supervisors. Besides, you got the ones from the communities. You're on your third time trying to be fired. Ladies and gentlemen, think how many of you could withstand 50 complaints? How many of you could stand 15 or 20 from your own coworkers and bosses and keep your job? How many of you could stand 20 or 30 complaints from your clients, the people you're supposed to serve, written ones, and keep your job? Catanzara's very existence as the head of the FOP and as an officer with his policing powers shows you how broken the system is.